Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. It's a beautiful 8th of November, 2022. Coming up this episode of the Crusty Canuck podcast. Out of touch or they just don't care? Yes, Miss Chrystia Freeland, Canada's Deputy Prime Minister, having a faux pas about how to get rid of a subscription to a certain TV channel to help you save money in this economic crisis. Oh my. Yep. The more they keep talking, the more they just don't care. All that more come up to the show. Please stick around. Listener and viewer discretion is advised. Why? Because I swear and I smoke cigarettes. Please stick around.
Hit it, sweetheart. Because I am hard, you will not like me.
Yes, sir.
There is no racial bigotry here. Here you are all equally worthless.
From Western Canada, this is the Crusty Canuck podcast, a Canadian veteran's point of view on political, social, economic issues and life. Here's Crusty.
That's right, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the episode of the Crusty Canuck podcast, episode 191, Out of Touch, or they just don't care. Yes, of course, Miss Freeland saying, let me show you how you can save $13.99 a month with our inflationary method plus GST. That's just sarcasm there, too. But who knows what kind of tricks are up their sleeves, ladies and gentlemen. I'm your host, Crusty Canuck. Yes, I'm back for another episode of the podcast. All that and more. Yes. And if you like and hear what you see, please click like and subscribe. Share this all over your social media platforms to the best of your ability. And you can also find my podcast on Podbean, Rumble, Spotify, Amazon, and Player FM, and of course, YouTube, all those other big companies and moguls out there that are trying to save us from C11. Anyhow, as I carry on, and I digress here, Chrystia Freeland has said some really stupid things in the past, but this recent one has just... wow, taking it up the chuff for every Canadian out there. She's sitting there talking to Canada, talking about how she got rid of her subscription to the Disney Plus channel and how she saved $14 a month, $13.99 to be precise, plus applicable taxes pending on where you're purchasing said item. I know my wife's a big Disney fan. She likes the channel, so she has it, and she watches it when she wants to. I personally don't care. There's a few movies I remember as a kid that I sit and watch with, and okay, that's fine. Brings back memories. However, but if you are the Minister of Finance and second in command of the country, one would think you'd have some better ideas or some better understanding when it comes to helping Canadians save some money. How about get rid of the carbon tax? Ooh, there's an idea. How about cut back on some of the ridiculous effing spending that was proposed into the fall quasi-budget, eh? Oh, wow. What a fantastic idea that might be, Miss Freeland. Now, I've criticized her before numerous times, and I've actually had a few people weigh in and call me a sexist for doing it, too. Oh, my. I mean, a man in this day and age, in the 21st century, cannot criticize a woman's efforts when she doesn't make any efforts? There's been lots of women in my life that criticize my efforts. That's all par for marriage. That's just the way it goes. It has nothing to do with gender. It's about effort and about actions and how this government takes action against things they disagree with, but they won't take action on things that people need, like our money. Ooh. Heaven forbid if we actually want to keep our money and try to keep our lights on, try to keep our podcast going, try to keep the heat on, because I like to remind certain individuals that live in the GTA and the greater Ottawa areas and parts of Ontario where they're experiencing 12 Celsius and 15 Celsius days in November. Okay, out here in the Great West, okay, we're hitting about minus 21 with a wind chill come up about 30. Okay, in some spots. And I'm not that far from Edmonton, so you can't sit there and say, I'm way up north. No. We are not way up north. We're experiencing winter right now. So when these individuals talk about, maybe you should just cut your TV service, cut this channel off and cut that channel off and save $5 or $6 here and there, it just goes to prove how out of touch and how inept some of these politicians really are. And the more and more they keep talking down to people, like Miss Freeland does, when I'll show you momentarily here with a couple of her videos, a couple of her quirks, because she was in Milton, I think, there yesterday, just west of Toronto there, in the greater GTA, talking about her spending habits and how she's privileged. We get it. We know how many of you politicians are privileged. Okay, especially the career politicians, how privileged you really are when it comes to your job. Okay. Now here's Miss Freeland's paycheck. She makes roughly $280,000 or $279,000 a year. Okay, for her position, because she's a minister and she's also the deputy PM too. So there's a few more perks right then and there, right? Not to mention she's driven to work and driven home from work. So she's chauffeured. All right. Not to mention when it comes to airfare, other mandates where she has to travel, it's paid for by you and me, the taxpayer. That's fine and dandy. Okay. Now, I'd like to remind any SJWs that happen to be watching this podcast and are just cringing at the seat of their pants because they just can't handle the fucking truth. The truth is they don't care. That's the truth. Okay. Regardless how much money they make. Okay. They all okayed and went along with 3 raises during the pandemic, 1 before and 2 during. Okay. And I don't care who gives to charity or not. I've given to charity and I got nailed for it. So don't hand me that crap. Okay. Let's take a look at the track record of the Liberal Party so far. They've screwed up NAFTA deals. They stopped promoting oil production in this country. Okay. They don't want to bring our resources to market because a handful of separatists in La Belle Province don't like Alberta dirty oil. But they don't mind Saudi dirty oil. They don't mind Nigerian oil, and they sure as hell don't mind Venezuelan oil. All right. So you're seeing the context and the contrast here and how priorities are just not for Canada. They're meant for a few here and a few there. Okay. Now, I can tell you this right now. If I was making $280,000 a year, I'd be doing a hell of a lot more than telling people to say, well, maybe you should just cancel this channel. Eh? Oh, wouldn't that be nice? And then stop breathing and stop eating. Yeah, that's right. And we'll get along just fine because the recession's not really going to happen. The recession's all in your head. Yeah, it's just, you're just making this stuff up. Yeah, because, they really don't give a shit.
Stay updated and follow Crusty Canuck on Facebook, Twitter, Gab, Telegram, YouTube, and Podbean. Subscribe today and donate at crustycanuck.ca.
And the more and more people talk about it, the more and more people bring it to question. Okay, the more and more these leaders deflect from it. Okay, like I said in my last episode, you've got all these liberals saying, rah, 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 let's stand up for the workers in Ontario. Yet they weren't going rah, 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 standing up for the truckers. And they weren't going rah, 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 maybe behind closed doors, for the people that were setting fire and trying to destroy railheads. But they were rah, rah right there for the BLM marches that happened 2 years ago. So which is it? It's okay to protest and talk about constitutional rights and everything, as long as it's something that you agree with, right? That's fine. Okay. But when Canadians are trying to get ahead, trying to save their money, put money back in their RSPs, put money back in their GICs or whatever investments they have, for that matter, investing in their homes, investing in their kids' education, or investing in themselves, you got to be right there, take a chunk of it in the name of the environment and your own buffoonery. Well done. Yeah, crack doesn't smoke itself, right, Justin and Chrystia? Right? It doesn't, does it? No, of course not. Of course not. No, you have to go on national television and talk down to Canadians as if they're idiots, Wasn't William Shatner Mr. Pause extraordinaire? Isn't that the basis of a lot of comedians' jokes when it comes to poking fun at Mr. William Shatner? And hey, I don't mind the captain. I think he's a pretty cool guy. He's one of my childhood heroes. But he used to stop and pause. Oh, my God, Mr. Spock. You know what I'm talking about. So why is it okay when Miss Freeland does that? When she pauses and goes, well, you have to understand that I come from a privileged household. Yeah. And we all get it. We all understand your privilege, Miss Freeland. We all understand the privilege you went to an Ivy League school, probably paid for by your parents, right? Must be nice, Now, I'm not dissing anybody who gets post-secondary education, but I'll diss buffoonery, whether it's post-secondary or community college or just walking down the street, right? And you are promoting and perpetuating the buffoonery, right? Like, do you not care about what you're saying to people? Do you not care about what you're doing? Really? Like, are you really that inept with the Canadian public that you cannot handle proper questions? You cannot handle thinking about something before you start talking? Eh? How is this going to help Canadian families if they cancel subscription? Well, anybody with common sense knows that if they're spending too much money on something, they're going to cut back on it. Okay. But you guys have caused this recession. You have. With all the borrowing and spending you have done in the name of Canada, in the name of your virtue. Okay. You did nothing for the seniors. You've done nothing for the veterans. You sure as hell didn't bring clean water to those reservations that were promised back in 2015. Okay. But you're harping on people over the gun issue again. You're saying you're going to keep Canadians safe. Well, you know what the problem is because you passed legislation to promote said problem. Bill C-21. Oh, you commit a violent crime and you're part of this community? Oh, there. Go about your way. Even though you had a firearm, but your neighbor who actually goes to a range and is registered with the RCMP, he's going to be penalized because that's about safety, priorities, right? Said no one. Right. Now, what gets me is that we have all this outrage on social media. Everyone's pissed off because Elon Musk bought Twitter. Well, good for Elon. I'll say that for Elon. Well done, Mr. Musk, if you're watching this show. Well done. You just keep creating things and engineering things and spending your money and do what the hell you want to do. Free enterprise. That is something we need in this country, ladies and gentlemen. Free enterprise. While the Jagmeet Singh wannabes out there, or the Rachel Motley Notleys out there want to do this, worrying about who has money and who doesn't have money, I like to remind my viewing audience here too, and my listening audience as well, that it was the Alberta NDPers that really wanted to have people have the books thrown on them for defying the quarantine regulations and mandates. Okay. Now, there's a little clip on Rebel News that I'll put up here. I'll put my description for you there, ladies and gentlemen. But when you look at the consensus on what's going on in today's society, especially in this country, now it sucks what's happening in Ukraine. It sucks what's happening in parts of the world when it comes to drought and people going without. But let us worry about Canada. Can we not worry about Canada? Right? Today, the midterms are happening in the United States. My American friends out there, I hope nothing but the best and prosperity for you all. Okay. But you're seeing the buffoonery down there. We're seeing the buffoonery up here. So whatever we're being sized up for, I think the good guys just might be winning.
Stay updated and follow Crusty Canuck on Facebook, Twitter, Gab, Telegram, YouTube, and Podbean. Subscribe today and donate at crustycanuck.ca.
And as I mentioned before, ladies and gentlemen, the good guys might be winning, meaning that I'm not hoping that my friends down in the States have an overwhelming Democratic majority or overwhelming Republican majority. But we're starting to see a little more common sense coming from a lot of political pundits on both sides of the border. Now, regardless of how you feel about Pierre Poilievre, I have mentioned before numerous times on this show that he is a career politician. Okay. He is a career politician. And, I don't know what he's going to do or how he's going to do it, but I would like to see some changes in this country. A lot of us Canucks would, for the very simple reason that he's nothing like Justin. Whether it's a left wing or right wing, it's all the same bird. I've heard all the proverbs before too, but I do have a little bit of faith in the man where he'll stir things up and conjure things up and make these people think and get the so-called liberal majority on board with him. Because when you look at the liberal party of this country, do you honestly see proper liberalism? Live and let live? No. You see, live and let live as long as you agree with us. Live and let live as long as you follow our virtue. Live and let live as long as you agree with our mandates and taking more money out of your pocket to make us look sexy. How else do you explain it? Excuse me. Here's a little video from Miss Freeland about her faux pas. This is, she's talking about how her privileges are. And just listen to how she talks to people. Okay? Really listen to how she talks to people and how she tries to get her point across. Tilts her head kind of like a dog watching television. Please listen to and tell me what you think based on this. Because I'm just, every time I every time she speaks, I just, ugh, you know? Yeah. Well, you decide, folks. Decide amongst yourselves.
Your comment regarding Disney Plus and Canadians, in some instances, calling that out of touch um, uh, with Canadians in general. And I was wondering if you could comment on that.
Of course. Look, I think I'll want to start by really recognizing that I am a very privileged person, for sure. Like other elected federal leaders, I am paid a really significant salary. And I know that that puts me in a really, really privileged position. And I really recognize that it is not people like me, people who have my really good fortune, who are struggling the most in Canada today.
You think?
The people who are struggling in Canada today with today's high prices aren't people like me. They're not federally elected politicians. They are people across the country who earn a low income.
Right on,
who
Skippy. Oh,
really do find that today's high prices mean they have to make difficult choices about what food to buy, about whether to buy groceries or pull together the money to pay the rent. So I 100% recognize that. And in fact, it is that recognition which shaped so much of the fall economic statement, which shaped our decision to focus government resources on helping the most vulnerable, which drove our decision to double the GST tax credit that goes to the 11 million most vulnerable households in Canada. And those checks started to arrive on Friday. That's really important. It is that recognition that the people in Canada who are struggling, for whom inflation really is a direct personal challenge, are people like the low-income workers who earn the Canada Worker Benefit, who will be getting the Canada Worker Benefit. And that's why we have taken the decision to pay that Canada Worker Benefit in advance so people don't have to wait to get that support. And then finally, a group which is struggling is our young people. And that is why we've taken the decision to eliminate permanently the federal interest on Canada Student and Canada Apprentice loans.
Precision is in the details.
wow.
In your
Wow.
technology.
Gee, thanks a lot,
And it keeps you
Chrystia.
safe.
That's really generous of you
Enjoy
to
the
give
season
people
with the Kia
$200
Forte.
over the period of
Reserve
6
yours now
months.
at your local
Yeah,
dealer.
that's really sweet of you. Well done, said nobody. Okay. And you saw for yourselves and heard for yourselves, ladies and gentlemen, how she was speaking. A lot of pauses in this and that. And that's why we're really, really looking after the young people and forgiving interest on your loans. So there's more tax money gone to the dogs again, right? More tax money. Just, well, we're going to give away this and we're going to do this. Like, you heard her enthusiasm. She doesn't give a shit. Yes, she's privileged. Yes, we knew that. And your party was called on that bullshit about 6 months ago, too, by some privileged conservatives. But nonetheless, they brought that to surface. Okay. So here's my suggestion. How about you and your boyfriend, boss, or whatever, your simp or surrogate, whatever, step the fuck down. Okay. That's my best guess. Okay. Get rid of the carbon tax, period, because you're not going to stop the weather based on how much money you accumulate from every taxpayer in this country. Okay. Now, the first couple years of me doing this show, I have asked, and I have asked my audience, and if you're watching by some great miracle, okay, what are the viable plans you have put in place to save the world? And don't tell me wind and solar, because you obviously really don't experience Canadian winter as well as we do. And Miss Freeland, you even said yourself you're from Alberta. So you, of all people, should know what it's like to struggle in this province. In Saskatchewan, in Northern Ontario, Northern Canada, Northern BC, okay, Northern Quebec, in New Brunswick, Nova Scotia, Newfoundland. You should know this. But you just keep advertising and promoting the fact that you just don't fucking care. Right? So I was going to give you the Polar Vortex Bullshit Award yet again. That would have been, I think, your third time. But I'm not even going to bother. Okay? And the people that are responsible for your actions are the people that voted you in. So when you're riding in Toronto, now I forget off the top of my head where you're from, but you come from a very, very well-to-do neighborhood. You represent a well-to-do neighborhood. Okay? You do. Right? And when I look at all of you career politicians, you've never had to struggle for shit. You've never had to fight for a loan. You've never had to fight for anything. But you've taken it upon yourselves to fight people that want you to listen. Okay? You've taken it upon yourselves to fight the working class Canadian. You've taken it upon yourselves to fight people that question your status quo. So your answers that you just put on CTV there were null and void. You're not making any goddamn sense. Right? Yes, we get it. You're privileged. You're privileged. Oh, you're privileged. Most of that was handed to you. You grew up with that privilege. Okay? You don't give two shits about the rural farmers in Ontario, in Quebec, across the country. You don't care about them. You don't. And you should. Okay? Your whole party has talked about making people get into the middle class and those people working hard to get in there. And then you turn around and give them more tax. So from working hard to be part of the middle class, you're really, really trying hard to take them to the poorhouse. God, stupid is as stupid does, right? Kind of like what Forrest Gump is. But at least he stood up for something. What the fuck do you stand for?
Stay updated and follow Crusty Canuck on Facebook, Twitter, Gab, Telegram, YouTube, and Podbean. Subscribe today and donate at crustycanuck.ca.
And a reminder again, ladies and gentlemen, if you like it here to see, please click like and subscribe. Share this content all around your social media platforms. You can find my podcast on Podbean, Rumble, Spotify, Amazon, and Player FM, and on the Tube too. So please check me out there. Share this all around your social media platforms and tell your friends. Tell your friends, here's this Canadian guy who speaks his mind and says this and says that, cracks a few jokes and tells it like it is from his own perspective. Okay. Now, I don't sit in this office all day and sit around and pick my nose and watch news report after news report. I'm out in the world. I work for a living. Okay. I'm pulling anywhere from 46 to 50 plus hours a week at my job. And they're long hours, they're hard hours, but it's good work. And I'm thankful to have a job and I'm thankful to be able to keep the lights on. But I'm not thankful for politicians who want to keep taking another 20 cents here, another 40 cents here, another $1 here, another $5 here for the sake of the environment. Okay. I'm not in tune with forgiving certain loans and forgiving this. The federal Liberals gave Loblaws $12 million there, 4 years ago? Because of their freezers for the environment. They forgave loans to Irving and they forgave loans to Bombardier. And now they're forgiving student loan interests. The interest on student loans, they're forgiving that. Well done. So if you can sacrifice that, where's the other money coming from? That's right, from people like me and from my wonderful audience out there, people like you, right? So all the more reasons, ladies and gentlemen, don't file for Trudy. Don't file for Trudy. Hashtag don't file for Trudy. Hashtag don't file for Trudy. Because when I look at my pay stubs, and I've said this numerous times, a lot of money comes off my check. both my paychecks and my pension. Don't file for Trudy. Pass that around. Hashtag, don't file for Trudy. That's the best I can say. Either that or, we start another convoy. We start another convoy and maybe go to Ottawa again. Interesting. But then we'll have to wait and see what the results are going to be for this inquiry that's been going on as we speak as well, too. And I've been trying to watch as best I can. A lot of it's pretty dry, but the people I have talked to, it's looking like there's going to be a pretty cool verdict that's going to come out of this. And we'll have to wait and see, but who knows? The powers that be are going to twist and shape it all around just so the powers that be still save face, right? There have been police officers that have been wrong. There have been administrators that have been wrong. Bureaucrats have been wrong. Okay. The last Ottawa election, the most recent city election they had there too, a lot of the buffoonery and the social justice warrior types were booted out. So it's good to see that Ottawa might have some common sense again. I used to like visiting that city when I was living in Petawawa. Ottawa was always a great time. Always had great times in Ottawa. Clean, historical, lots of history in that city. But even that time, it was still run by buffoons. But, I digress. But I think you, my audience out there, you see what I'm getting at here when it comes to these clowns. You see what they're promoting for us, the viewers, submitted for our approval. And what's coming out of it. Okay. Other than another election, that's the best way we can get rid of these people. These idiots. Honestly, look at the title card I have there. Out of touch, or they just don't care. They obviously don't care. She's bragging about how she cut a subscription to some TV service. Whoop-de-doo. Okay. And what's $14 going to get you this month? A down payment on a newspaper. A few extra liters of gasoline if you're lucky. Right? What if you commute? What if you live in the rural area and got to commute to a city or commute to a different populace? What if you have to drive 35, 40 minutes to work? Okay. In the cold, in the dark. Right? You get to work when it's dark and you get home when it's dark. Fantastic. That extra $14, might go to your hydro bill or might go to your grocery bill. Right? See, you clowns know. You political clowns know what is going on. You're a hell of a lot smarter than you act, too. No one can believe that a woman like that is that stupid or a prime minister is that stupid. You all know what you're doing. You just don't care. Like I said in my last episode, karma is going to be an unforgiving bitch. And I hope to God karma smacks your asses royally. Figuratively, that is. But I prefer to see you eat a ball of your own shit.
Stay updated and follow Crusty Canuck on Facebook, Twitter, Gab, Telegram, YouTube, and Podbean. Subscribe today and donate at crustycanuck.ca.
And once again, ladies and gentlemen, if you like and hear what you see, please click like and subscribe. Share this content all around your social media platform. And remember, too, that this podcast is brought to you in part by Gary. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. Gary, getting down to business. Ladies, Gary's calling for you. What do you say? Take a trip back in the past with those god-awful pants and sit back and smile with Gary. Special thanks to the page on Facebook, a tribute to the very worst album covers. That's right, picked up that tidbit there too. So instead of having commercials, I might throw an extra album cover in there for for shits and giggles. Let's see what you think, my lovely audience. And this is also brought to you by free speech. More important than your feelings. And there's still people out there that are hanging on to dear life about free speech too, especially over the Elon Musk takeover of Twitter, how he purchased it and he laid off half of the staff and people are all up in arms. Oh my God, I lost my job. And well, I'm going to take their advice they gave some oil patch workers there a few years back. Learn how to work rather than how to code. You know what I mean? So, but I'm happy that Elon's taken it over. I use Twitter quite a bit now because of his takeover and because of certain hashtags that were passed around. But you can find me there on Twitter. You can also find me on Rumble. You can find me on Getter too, ladies and gentlemen. I am part of the Getter world as well. I just updated my page there today. So you want to check out my stuff, you can find me on Twitter, Facebook, Rumble, Getter, YouTube, Instagram, and Podbean. Plus, you can find my podcast on Spotify, Amazon, and Player FM too. Please check that out when you can. And next time I do an episode, I'll try to find another album cover to share with you all. I got to hit it at Gary. That was just so funny. I had to share that. Get into my sexy radio voice and say, sit on back with Gary. Time to get down to business. But the business is this, ladies and gentlemen. We got to keep our heads up. Not fall for the buffoonery any longer. Okay? I can only do so much. You can only do so much. But if we work together, try to get something on the go, let's see what we can do. Okay? People are still talking about this pandemic amnesty and stuff, too. A few other podcasters and video creators out there. Clyde Do Something made a great video there, too. Mr. Sunshine Baby did a great thing. And a few other people are weighing in. But like I said in my last episode, I might forgive some, but I do remember some individuals that took it upon themselves to be extra special dicks to me, and extra special dicks to a few people I know, especially those individuals that needed some real help. And they took the whole masking and walking and walking the straight line for them too fucking seriously. So I'll just say this. Don't come knocking on my door if you need assistance with something. Think really, really hard if you're going to do it or not. Right? I try to be a peaceful and try to be a tolerant individual. But after what I personally witnessed during the pandemic, after what I've seen on independent media outlets and even mainstream media outlets on how some people were treated and how a lot of administrators and bureaucrats reacted to that, I'm not impressed. So you, my wonderful audience out there, I encourage you to stand your ground and stand for what's right. Oh, we can just forgive and forget, like pretend it never happened. No. It's one thing if you were given a timing to meet somebody and that somebody stood you up. It's one thing if someone stole your shoes for gym class. It's another thing when someone stood in front of you from getting your groceries or getting a job or keeping your job or for even questioning the science. Okay. So there are some people out there that are going to have to do a hell of a lot more for restitution. And I'm not saying paying cash. I'm saying you might have to stand there and get scolded, get reamed out a few times, chastised, and given a taste of your own medicine. So you understand the magic word of humility and to be properly fucking humbled. Anyway. Phew, I better take a breather. I'm just getting too emotional, ladies and gentlemen. Maybe I should put the picture of Gary up again. That's right, ladies. Getting down to business with Gary. Yes. Once again, special thank you to the page and Facebook. Tribute to the very worst album covers. So, anyway, ladies and gentlemen, I have been Crusty Canuck on this beautiful 8th of November, 2022. Remembrance Day is coming up. I booked the day off, so I'm going to do some reminiscing and remembering of some of my pals from years gone by, and remember some of the sacrifices they made in Afghan, and remember some of the sacrifices that our grandparents' generations made. And just remember and be thankful for what we have still too. But I'm still going to reflect, still remember, and I might even have a couple of drinks too. So that's what I'll be doing this Friday. And I might have an episode up the following Saturday. We'll see. I booked the 2 days off just in case I do have a few drinks and I need time to recover. But I'm fortunate enough to have those 2 days off, which I did ask for in a month in advance. So that's what I'll be doing this Remembrance Day. So you might see some pictures of me with the medals and my beret on, or, I'll just put a shirt and tie on and just remember the lads, what they were, real fucking heroes. Ooh. Updates too. Screenplay is on the works. We're passing it around to certain production companies. So cross your fingers, hope for the best. Like I say, you might see me on television next year. Who knows? My name and credits, written by, produced by, whatever. And I've had a lot of help too. So you guys who are listening, you know who you are. Thank you guys. We'll make something fucking magical out of this story. But needless to say, ladies and gentlemen, like I said, it's 8th of November, 2022. I wish for good things. Do what you can to help your neighbors out in these trying times. Shovel a bit of snow, maybe a few extra groceries. Donate what you can to the food bank. And we can still try being civil with each other, regardless of the buffoonery that's presented to us as leadership. Needless to say, speak our minds, stand our grounds, and do it the best we can with what we got. And like I always say, ladies and gentlemen, humanity and merit wins the day. take care, and I will see you probably in another 10 days or so, or this Saturday. Anyway, I'll keep you posted. And humanity merit wins the day. I've said that. Anyway, take care. See you next time. Bye for now.
Hit it, sweetheart. Because I am hard, you will not like me. Yes, sir. There is no racial bigotry here. Here you are all equally worth.
This has been another episode of the Crusty Canuck podcast. Stay sane and thank you for listening. From Western Canada, this is the Crusty Canuck podcast.
I'm sorry, I can't hear you. I have an infection in my ear. Oh,